Welcome to Stars of Service. I'm Brian Christensen. One thing that every veteran has, resiliency. There's one way to get past a lot of different problems. And sometimes you have to find that from within. And once you find it and you find your footing, nothing can stop you. There's someone I met, Ashley Yoon. She's remarkable. She's got an amazing story. And she's joining us right now. Ashley, thank you so much for coming in. You're one of the rare veterans that I've met that have been in more than one service. So you were in the Army and the Air Force?
Army active duty for 9 years, the Air Force Reserves for 6 years, 5 or 6 years.
And what were your different jobs?
I actually did ammunition for both. So I did ammunition for the Army. I went in the Air Force Reserves. I was planning on changing my position. So I was going to do military police and got pregnant and decided to just stick with ammunition because that's what I knew. And I would actually learn a little bit more about the ammunition part in the Air Force.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, when you went into the Army, is that what they gave you? Or okay. Thank you, recruiters. Yes, we all have that story.
Yeah.
What was what's a cool story that you have for us from the Army, on the Army side?
Well, there's several, going from staying the night at ranges because we had to basically upload the ammo into
It's not a test, don't worry.
We had to upload the ammo, we had to upload the rockets. We were always the first ones out in the field, the last ones to leave. Helicopters in Afghanistan actually fueled and loaded the ammunition into the helicopter.
Oh, wow.
That was interesting because usually you don't get to do both of those and you're not always under a moving helicopter. In Iraq, I actually got tired of working at the ammunition holding area. So I volunteered to be on patrol. So I did patrol for about a year. So we would go outside the wire and talk to the locals. We would hand out candy to the kids. We would go and make sure nobody would be out after dark or after a certain time.
What was that like, though, to go out the wire? I mean, you've been working on post or the base or whatever all this time, but that first time you go past that wire, what's that like?
For a 20-year-old that wanted to see some type of action, that was kind of bored in the setting that we were at, which, how do you get bored being in a war zone country?
Right,
but it happens, you get tired of your job. It was definitely sort of a high because it was like, wow, I might get to see some action. And then you realize, oh, I'm just driving around. So then I did nights for a while, and I had to wear NVGs.
Night vision goggles.
Yeah, night vision goggles to drive around for 6 hours a night and get chased by the dogs. And we used to drive through the watermelon fields on accident, and then the locals would complain about us, and it was, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Wow.
But I was also there when Saddam had got hung.
Oh.
So I was actually out on patrol the night that they took his body through his hometown. So I was out there and got to see the convoy of him.
Oh,
yeah,
man. How long of a convoy? What are we talking? All kinds of extra security?
Honestly, it was quiet. There were a few cars, and I think that was just it wasn't a big deal because he had been on trial for so long, which we were actively watching on TV.
Right.
And then they're like, hey, his convoy, because they showed on their TV that they had hung him.
Mm-hmm.
So I had watched that on the news over there, and then we went out on patrol that night, and they were like, yeah, that's the convoy going down. So just be aware, heads up. We don't know how the locals will act. And the locals were very, very quiet.
To be there during history, that's crazy.
I tell my kids all the time, remind them, I'm like, do you know who Saddam is?
Wow. So you've been to Iraq, you've been to Afghanistan, you've probably been to a few other places. What's been something that's just been really tough to get through?
Well, I've lost quite a few friends, whether it be actually someone that was on patrol with us he passed away on my day off. So they had actually gotten hit on the day that I wasn't working. And a deployment that I had missed, one of my good friends was a pilot, and he had gotten killed on deployment. So that was very tough. And then I had another friend, he was actually the Special Forces shooting instructor on Fort Bragg. So everybody knew him. And we were always best friends. He had just wrote me a long message on Facebook telling me like, oh, I think so highly of you. I know you're doing a great job as a mom now, but your military service, don't discount that. And I find out a few weeks later that he had gotten shot in Afghanistan. So that had a tremendous effect on me for quite a few years, actually. So,
How do you bounce back from that? How do you get past? I mean, I've been there too, where you've lost people right there, and yeah, it takes maybe a little while, a few years or whatever else. But I was talking about resiliency earlier, and knowing your second half of your story, where you're going to go. But how in the world do you bounce back?
just have to keep giving life a chance. I've wanted to give up a lot, but there's a lot in between that where I'm glad I didn't give up. So I just kept giving chance after chance, which has also been my downfall in a lot of relationships. But it's worked for life. In life in general. I'm glad I kept giving chances and giving myself the grace to feel the emotions of the things that I had to endure.
When you talk about getting through these, what's the first thing that comes into your mind to keep going?
It's kind of funny. I seen something that was like, you want to outlive your enemies, right? You want to outlive
Yes.
them.
Yeah.
You want to outlive whatever has put you in pain. There's that. And then having children. Having children has completely changed my outlook on life. So that has been a big thing because, if I would have gave up a long time ago, I wouldn't get to see where they're at.
Right.
And that keeps me going now because I'm like, I'm curious what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
How are you going to be?
They have this special ability to fuel us.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's not great. Go to your room. And other times it's just like, how is this little person, in my case, he's 6'5", how is this little person just creating this dynamic of force, of energy, of just making me want to do better all the time?
Yeah.
So,
and because my son told me a few days ago, he said, you're going to be on the news. You're going to be on YouTube. He was like, PMO. And I'm like, which means pissing me off.
oh, okay.
So
I know the Air Force acronyms. I don't know the newer ones.
yeah. So apparently I was rage baiting him, which is another one, by being here today. So hopefully
Got it.
I do my job.
Doing well. We're going to take a quick break, but we're going to get a little bit deeper on some of the things that you've been through, if that's okay. And we'll be right back. Welcome back to Stars of Service. I'm Brian Christensen. Today we're talking with Ashley Yoon, an Army and Air Force veteran. She was in both services, and she's been through a lot, and she is quite resilient, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Ashley, you kind of you told me some things about what you've been through, and if you could share a little bit about, some of the, you mentioned something, and it took me a while to really truly process that. You have 4 children. Tell me a little bit about your family.
So my first 2 children, because my daughter's 15, son's 14, they just had birthdays actually last week. I had them on Fort Bragg while I was still in the military.
Right.
I got out that's when I joined the Air Force Reserves.
Mhm.
And I was taking college courses and doing the reserves. And I got pregnant with my son, Christopher, who is 12. I was married at the time. So I was trying to manage a family, marriage. I didn't realize it until I went to the VA to be seen for military trauma,
Right.
that I was also being abused in my relationship. So I started taking precaution and steps to leave that marriage because I didn't realize how bad things were until my counselor was like, "Hey, this is not normal. If you do this, this, and this, be careful because it could ramp up." So I started taking that step to get away before there were any domestic violence things happening. And I had protective orders in place, thought I was doing everything right. Let him come in one time and he tried to beat me to death. So, and that was while the kids were in our home in their beds. Because I took a chance and was like, "Hey, I'll let you come cook dinner for them. No problem. Just be here. I want them to have their father in their life." He was also a military veteran, had several TBIs, traumatic brain injuries. So I did know that that was going on as well. He did start drinking alcohol, which I think became a huge problem and made things 10 times worse. But yeah, that was very pivotal. He tried to beat me to death. Once I got him to leave, about 4 hours later after the incident, he got pulled over by the police and actually used my gun to shoot himself in the head. So he committed suicide. I was still in the reserves for the Air Force, and they actually gave me the option to leave and to get out. So that way I could take care of my kids.
Right.
Or they were like, "Hey, if you take some time off, you have plenty of leave, come back, we'll put you on active orders so you can have the funds that you need until you get things in place." So I decided to stick with that. And I had a good friend that was like, "Hey, I have parents that can help out." And they were very, very helpful at that time. So that's kind of had a little support system, even though through my whole marriage and because of domestic violence and abusers, they'll, pull you away from your family. They'll pull you away from all your friends. And I didn't realize that was a sign. I thought that was normal. So I established a new support group, and that actually helped me and my children make it through a lot of things.
I can't even imagine. What was that first day after? What was that like for?
So I smile because actually this is probably more traumatic than the actual event. I went to the hospital. I think it was maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. I had no friends or family to come pick me up. So the hospital had to actually pay a taxi cab driver to drive me home. That was pretty traumatic. That's the moment I realized I have no one. And my 92-year-old neighbor at the time, the ambulance had actually went and woke her up to watch the kids. So I get back home. She's such a sweet lady. She's still in great shape. I miss her. Like, she was amazing. But she had made the kids peanut butter and jelly. My face was unrecognizable at that time. And when I walked in, my youngest, who is 12 now, I believe he wasn't even 2 years old yet. He was still 1 year old. He would not come to me because he did not recognize me. So he was standing there crying because he heard my voice, but he didn't see me. My other kids were 3 and 4, I believe, and they were like, "Mommy, what happened?" And I couldn't really explain because they weren't age appropriate enough to explain what happened. His parents did come in and help because he was a firefighter at the time on Fort Bragg. They came in and helped, but everybody was completely shocked at what had happened because they had no idea. He hid it at work. Nobody really knew. Again, we weren't allowed to have friends and family around us. I was completely isolated. So it was a shock to everyone.
And your 92-year-old neighbor, the taxi ride, it lots of isolation there, and obviously that's changed since then. You've probably opened up your world a little bit more than. Tell me about what that was like that first time you had to give trust to someone else of hey, whether it be my best friend or whatever the case is.
It's still a struggle. I won't say I've been able to fully trust, but I do have better trying to think of the word, discernment
Right.
when it comes to people. I'm very hyper
Aware, sensitive,
yeah,
all the above?
hyper aware, hypersensitive. I can immediately and I hate that too because it's like I want to be able to keep giving that chance, but it's very hard to do so. I did have
Great
a
spidey sense. You can sense that. I get it.
yeah, I did try to start dating, and I met my younger son's father, and I thought, that was great. I had a lot of fun, but in his own ways was abusive, and I was codependent because I was trying to fit him in this box of,
Right.
hey, I need you to replace my husband, which was not fair to him at all. But also, he was using me as, a place to stay, and he thrived off that codependence. So it was a very unhealthy relationship. So it was a learning curve. I definitely learned what to do, what not to do. And
Right.
once that kind of went south, I moved away from the military town and made my way out here. So, yeah.
We're going to take another quick break, but we're going to come back and we're going to finish out the third part of your story of a lot more happier ending, and can't wait for you all to hear. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Stars of Service. I'm Brian Christensen. Over there in the corner is Austin, pressing all the buttons, making sure that this records, and it's a good show. We're back with Ashley Yoon, and she has been through a lot. And one thing we didn't get to is when she turned the page and she got to the next chapter. How did she do it? How did you do it? What was your next chapter?
I kind of just left everything behind and literally sold my house, sold my things, got my kids, moved to a different area, which I'm actually very privileged to be able to do. Not a lot of people can do that.
Right.
I just want to put that out there. Something I was doing before I moved was bodybuilding. That's something that has always helped me get through, was lifting weights, and I wanted to make a goal out of it. So before I had moved, while I was in my relationship, after I had my son, I actually did my first show, my first bodybuilding show.
Right.
Then I took a little break, got a new coach too. I just, everything was new. So I took advantage of that, moved, got a new coach, competed a few more times, and just kind of stuck with the overall lifestyle of it.
Right.
It's something I enjoy. It keeps the structure that I have. Again, I'm privileged enough to do it because it's a very expensive hobby. And it's something that my kids look up to. And I was actually thinking about it on the way here of how this morning my son wanted to eat something. He was like, well, I don't want all the calories of it, so I'll just eat half of it, which I try to get on them because I'm like, hey, you don't have to be strict on calories. Like, you need it to grow. But
so 2 scoops of ice cream now.
Yeah, instead of 3.
Yeah. Yes.
And I get them the protein ice cream, so it'd be like, hey, you can still have what you want.
Right.
And,
What was that like when you went from that dark place to, what made you say, I want to go back to the bodybuilding, that your hobby?
Again, that's just something that's always been there for me. It's the stability that I needed.
Right.
I think it's the stability that my kids needed. It provided structure. So they go to school, I go to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
It gets the endorphins going. I have something to look forward to when I get back home. That's my time to cook and clean, get ready for the kids to be home so I can give everything that I need to give. So I have my thing, and I'm not just sitting there driving myself crazy like, oh man.
How many hours a
do.
day is this, by the way?
Maybe 2.
Okay.
And that's like, I'll go walk on the treadmill and then lift weights. And once I see that 60-minute mark or even 70-minute mark for weightlifting, I'm like, oh, I'm done. Time to go.
Check, please.
Yeah.
If you could go back and tell yourself something, what would it be?
You're going to do it. You're going to be someone that you needed as a kid. You're going to be someone that you're going to look up to. Because having that, growing up in a city filled with drugs, growing up in an abusive household with an alcoholic, my mom did do drugs. And it was normal, again, just normal life for me. I didn't really have that person to look up to. I'm actually the only person in my family to graduate high school. And I'm one of the younger people in my family.
Right.
So I always strive to be that person that I needed and someone to look up to. So
What does the word resilience mean to you?
it means that no matter how hard you fall, it doesn't even matter how you get up or how long it takes you to get up. It's that you do get up. So resilience to me is giving yourself that grace and that time to get yourself where you need to be and where you want to be.
Ashley, thank you so much. What an incredible story. And you're not done yet.
No,
What's your next goal?
I would like to write a book. I'm soccer momming at the moment. So that's
Update LinkedIn.
yeah. So I do need to get on that. I actually got invited to write a piece for a domestic violence book.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I need to make sure the rights and all the legal aspects of that checks out before I do that. But I did get offered to do that. So that might be one small step towards that. I don't know. I just try to take every opportunity I can to make people aware about domestic violence.
I was going to ask you about that. How do you bring that up?
I kind of just stay personal with people, see where they're at, what are they dealing with, and if they have things that they're going through and I can relate or give them some sort of, hey, this is probably what's going on. I try to stay in my boundaries of that, but because some people don't want help.
Right.
And that's something that I've also came to realize. But I still, I'll share my story just to be like, hey, you're not alone. People go through a lot. And then they're like, wow, oh my God, and you're here. Yeah, I am. So to give people sort of that hope that even though you're down, it's possible to get back up. It's not easy.
No.
It's not easy by any means.
The first couple steps are, I follow you. Ashley, thank you again so much for coming in and sharing.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching Stars of Service. We'll see you next time.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.